Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I'm here to help you finish your Christmas shopping list and let everyone else over there stiff-arm their competition while trying to fight off that tryptophan on Turkey Night. Now, what we did was we partnered with Rochester Sports Autographs, the largest JSA authenticated autograph distributor in the United States, where you can get up to 75% off over 30,000 autographed sports collectibles during this holiday season. They have something for everyone. But how is RSA able to offer such great deals on JSA authentication, you ask? Well, they do this by making deals directly with athletes so there are no extra markups, and they choose to then pass that savings on to you, the customer. Now, all orders from Rochester Sports Autographs are top quality and shipped to your door with top authentication and a money-back guarantee. But hurry up because customers are so stark raving mad for RSA that memorabilia sells out daily. All you have to do is head over to shoprsa.com/SHN. Again, that's shoprsa.com/SHN. So don't wait to bring home your favorites and own a piece of sports history for you and the loved ones on your shopping list this holiday season. This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
The Rose Bowl. The game that inspired the college football bowl season has a long and storied history. The stadium itself is 100 years old, and in celebration of it, Pigskin Dispatch is assembling some of the top historians and authors to share the memories, people, and events that make the granddaddy of them all the special game that it is. Enjoy this Rose Bowl memory from pigskindispatch.com.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of PigskinDispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, your portal to positive football history. And we are still right in the middle of Rose Bowl month. We are celebrating 100 years of the great venue of the name Rose Bowl, where they have the game and all kinds of different activities have been there. The people, the places, the things. And we have a lot of help coming on these 40 days of Rose Bowl history for the 100th anniversary. And tonight is no exception. We have our good friend Rich Shmelter, a great historian of football, PFRA member, and a lot of different football books he's written. Rich, welcome back to the Pig Pen.
Darren, my pleasure. You know, I never get tired of jumping in the Pig Pen with you. It's an awesome show, and I so appreciate you having me on.
Well, the pleasure is all ours, and we are excited to have you here once again. And I know you've always got something cooking, Rich. So what do you have going on football-wise in your life right now?
Okay, right now I'm finishing up my first edition of a project called the Championship Diary Series. And it's going to be geared toward Super Bowls, even pre-Super Bowl games. The first one I worked on is about my beloved 1983 Raiders, but it's called Super Bowl Championship Diaries presents Super Bowl 18. And I don't give anything away. Well, actually, I did right now, but most of them I don't give anything away until the actual end. So I want the reader to just kind of follow it. And it's really a cool project because I was lucky enough to have found media guides. And I was able to break the team down, what dates these players were brought on. So you can actually break the team down and just, how this whole team was formed, the coaching staff, and it's game by game, anything and everything dealing with Super Bowls. And I'm even going to branch out on some with the NBA Finals and World Series as well. And I'm trying to experiment a little bit with the Stanley Cup. And a good friend of mine, Grayson, is trying to help me out with that because he's a big hockey fan and a hockey player at one time. So he's trying to teach me some of that. So, but I love it. I just love it.
Now, what kind of media will these be in? Are these like a podcast or a book or?
They're going to be a book I'm publishing under my own label,
Okay.
Malibu Sunset Media. And it's going to be in ebook form and published on demand. And
Okay.
I'm going to Kindle digital publishing on that.
Well, we look forward to that. So let us know when those come out, and we'll help spread the word about it. So we appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Now, we put you on a little bit of a project here with us to help us celebrate the Rose Bowl, and you're going to be on a few of these episodes, and tonight being the first one. And what game are you going to talk about this evening?
I'm going to talk about the very first Rose Bowl in January 1st, 1923. Now, according to a lot of people, they probably thought I was at that game, but I was not at that game. For the people that are listening that would say something like that, no, I wasn't.
You couldn't get a train ticket? Is that the problem?
I couldn't get a train ticket. No, I was still in high school. So that'll make some people laugh. I can't name them by name because it would take too long, but they know who they are.
All right, so you're saying this is the first Rose Bowl because this is actually the season that the Rose Bowl Stadium opened up before it was called by a different name. I believe it was called the Tournament of Roses East-West game.
Yes,
Prior to that?
The East-West game was in 1902, and it had a brief hiatus, and then it resumed the New Year's tradition in 1916, and then with the new stadium, the 1923 game was born, and after that, it's just been the granddaddy of them all, so to say.
Absolutely. So this is by my count, I think this is actually the seventh game that was played in Pasadena on New Year's Eve, or I'm sorry, on New Year's Day. All in, that 14-year hiatus, with the exception, but the first game that they had back in 1902, and this ends up being the seventh one played by my count.
Yes, and it's funny because at this time period in the early 1920s, the California Golden Bears, they were the dominant power on the West Coast, on the college football scene, but they declined the invitation to represent the Pacific Coast Conference. So USC, they were in their first year of PCC membership. They were the substitutes, and Cal's loss was USC's gain and Penn State's misery, because Penn State's the team that they played in that Rose Bowl.
Okay, so how did Southern Cal do during the regular season?
Oh, they were phenomenal. They were your typical USC team under Elmer Gloomy Gus Henderson, the head coach, who basically made this team what it was at that time. Everybody always says Howard Jones was the one that started everything at USC in the mid-20s, but it was Elmer Henderson that really started to build this team into a national power. And that team under the team captain, Leo Callard, they were 10-1 overall and 3-1 in the Pacific Coast Conference. So they were no pushovers. I mean, the Cal Golden Bears were a phenomenal team at that time, but USC was no slouch. And Penn State coming into the game was 6-3-1.
Okay, so we have two pretty good teams in this matchup of the Rose Bowl. So it really is kind of, with the exception of Cal, declining. USC is probably the next best team on the West Coast at that point.
Sure.
You said that's their first year in the Pacific Coast
Yes.
League. Wow, yes. That's a pretty good record for starting out.
Oh yeah, well, Henderson started to bring this team into the forefront, because before that, they were just playing, a lot of local, very small schools. They were playing like Whittier, Panoma, and some of them were even high schools that they were playing. And then Henderson changed all that in the early 20s. And he was truly responsible for making USC a powerhouse that they are today.
Do you have any names of some of the outstanding players for USC?
Oh yeah, we had a Roy Baker was the one gentleman's name, and they used to call him Bullet Baker. And he was just a phenomenal ball. He dazzled the opposition with his quickness, and the Trojans used that weapon to carry themselves into the first Rose Bowl. He was just a phenomenal talent. One of the very first USC backs that really made a name for himself. He attended Long Beach Poly High School, which was like a pipeline for USC at that time. And he won the 1918 California High School Football Player of the Year award. And once again, No, I did not play against him.
He was a couple years behind you?
Couple years. Thanks, Darren.
Hey, you set it up. I had to toss it in there. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so that means that's some pretty good stock of back there if he's getting California Player of the Year in high school, and USC getting him. So that's a blue chip prospect, what we would call it today for them. Because
a blue chipper, yeah, without a doubt, he was blue chip.
And how about any other players USC had that were sort of maybe standouts that made a difference?
There was halfback Gordon Campbell, and a little piece of trivia here. He was the very first person to ever score a touchdown in USC's bowl game history. And this was in that Rose Bowl. So, the name Gordon Campbell.
All right. We'll have to remember that if you're sitting at your local drinking establishment and you're getting one of those sports trivia games. That'd be a good one to know.
Yes, Gordon Campbell.
So, Rich, how about their opponents in this Rose Bowl at Penn State? What do we know about them?
Well, their coach was Hugo Besdick, and it was a really interesting story revolving around this game. The scheduled kickoff was set to start at 2:15 p.m., and it was already running 10 minutes behind schedule. But Penn State was not there at the Rose Bowl yet, and nobody could understand why Penn State got stuck in traffic. Well, Hugo Besdick requested, and he received extra time to allow his players the opportunity to go through warm-up drills. But the additional time was not appreciated by USC. And it was so great, the dismay was so great that Elmer Henderson and Besdick came close to waging a prize fight against each other over the issue. And there are some rumors that they actually did stage a fist fight over this, so USC came into the game. They were very, very upset at this. And it started to show at first because it started an hour late, and the extra time gave Penn State a little bit of time to get used to it. And Henderson's moniker of Gloomy Gus had to be apparent when the Nittany Lions, they took a 3-0 lead in the first quarter on a 20-yard field goal by Mike Palm. So that's another trivia question there. First points to ever be scored, Mike Palm. But however, after that initial score, none of the additional time needed to warm up helped the representatives from the Keystone State. They were held to 5 first downs and only 104 yards of total offense. Meanwhile, the Trojans' first taste of bowl competition was christened with 2 touchdowns in the second and third quarters. And here's the name, Gordon Campbell. He scored on a 1-yard touchdown run, and then it was followed by John Hawkins' conversion kick. And prior to Campbell's historic tally, Harold Galloway made one of the greatest plays up to that time in college football. On 4th down at the Penn State 10-yard line, Galloway made a spectacular diving catch of a poorly thrown ball from Campbell that helped set up USC's first score. He was knocked out when he landed on the 2-yard line and had to sit out the remainder of the quarter. And then Roy Bullet Baker scored USC's other touchdown in the third quarter on a 1-yard run, and once again, Hawkins added the extra point. For the day, Baker ran the ball 29 times for 123 yards.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, very, very, very good. And it was another part of this game. This game not only proved to be a milestone for the Trojans as a team, but it also marked the beginning of Gil Perrin's passion for the Cardinal and Gold. And this gentleman was a big, big fan. He attended USC, and this was the first time that he ever saw the Trojans play. And it started 3 years later. He began an incredible streak of being in attendance for 797 consecutive USC games. And ironically, his streak ended in 1998 at the same Rose Bowl stadium, the site in which he saw his first USC game.
Wow. So that's like 70 some years.
Oh, yes. He did. He never missed a game. I mean, he was probably the super fan. He was 23 to, let's see our math here, 23 to 98. Yeah, you're looking 75 years.
Yeah, geez. Wow.
Yeah, his whole life revolved around that.
That is really impressive. Yeah, when you get up to almost 800 games, you have to have some decades counting down there. That's
yeah. Everybody's done. A lot of the movie stars were all into USC football and all, but it didn't compare to his record. So this game started it for him.
Wow, that is very impressive, and glad you can mention him. Now, did they have most valuable players in these early games like that?
Leo Callan, he was the captain of the team. He was a USC guard, and he was named the Rose Bowl Player of the Game. And when the award was created in 1953, sections were made retroactively. So it wasn't given to him, I believe, at that time, but in 1953, it was presented to him 30 years after the fact.
Okay. Ah, very interesting. So they went back and did some retro. That's where these names are
Yes.
coming up. Okay, nice. So he didn't get to go to Disney World right after the game, but
He did
he was
not get to go to Disney World, which I don't even think Walt Disney was even aware of what he was going to create by that time.
probably
That
not.
came
But
years later.
now, I found it was kind of interesting because I've got some attendance and I'm not sure how accurate the attendances are, but if you look at the last game that was played before the Rose Bowl was open, we're playing at that tournament park, which is sort of a more temporary stadium. They had 50,000 people in the 1922 game between Washington and Jefferson in California, and this game here they had 43,000. But I
Right.
believe that the stadium was in a horseshoe at that point in time. They didn't have the one end zone completed yet for a few more years.
Right. Yeah. They didn't expand it, I believe, until, I don't even remember when they expanded it. I got that confused with the LA Coliseum also, because the LA Coliseum, it opened up around the same time and they expanded it for the Olympics in 32, but I don't know when they did the Rose Bowl.
I think might have been that same time, like early 30s when they completed it. But I'll do some more research on that. We'll catch up on that in a later podcast on this. But yeah, so it's but I think that was just kind of an interesting thing because I saw that drop and I said, wow, I wonder why that was. And then they were showing the pictures of the Rose Bowl, which I'll try to have up in the banner of this episode when we have it on Pigskin Dispatch. We'll put that picture up of the Rose Bowl as a horseshoe. So kind of an interesting development. They sort of phased it in to become a bowl later on. So it wasn't truly a bowl at this point, even though they call it the Rose Bowl. Yeah, that's some great history. So thank you for that research on the game. And it's sort of fun hearing back of these games that happened 100 years ago.
Just to let you know, also Rose Bowl, the Raiders won their very first Super Bowl at the Rose Bowl, January 9th, 1977, with Ken Snake Stabler at quarterback. I'm sorry, I had to get that in there.
Well, that's one that I like to hear too, because Freddie Blitnikoff was the MVP of that Super Bowl, I believe, and
Yes.
he's from Erie, where I live. Actually,
Yes.
there's
Yes.
a high school stadium that's about a mile from where I'm sitting right now, named after Fred Blitnikoff.
Well deserved. Well
So,
deserved. Hey, he had 4 catches in that game, set up 2 touchdowns with those catches.
yeah, so he was quite the player, both at Florida State and with the Raiders. So, yeah,
Man,
great.
they had that Bolitnikoff Award for him from college. Oh yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, we can have that for another show, though.
Right. Well, it sort of segues into my next question, because I know you have a podcast where you talk a lot about the Raiders and some other things, and maybe you'd like to just share with us a little bit about how that's going and where people can find that podcast.
Oh, it's great. I'm having the time of my life. I was interviewed last year by Josh Murphy, who goes by Murph's Fan Cave, and it was Raiders Fan Radio. And he interviewed me, and then he asked me on the show, he goes, would I be interested in doing a show on his network about the history? So he did that before the show started. So, I mean, I almost fell out of my chair. So I was basically just bombed on endorphins, when he was telling me this. So I put together the shows. The first couple shows were just terrible. You could hear papers dropping, almost kind of like I was doing a few minutes ago. And, the papers were dropping and everything. And they were terrible, I was, how it is when you think that you're being funny and then you don't have anybody to talk to. You just see this needle going up and down on Audacity. And I was like, oh my gosh. But then I really got into it. I have these 2 great guys that I work with, and Matt and Bruce, and all the stories that I always tell them and everything, they would always start laughing. So I kind of pictured them and they would be laughing at this. And that really helped me get, going on the show. And I'm almost up to episode 50 now, over 2 years. And I do it once a week, but I do take breaks in between, and it's going great. And it's part of Raider. You just go to Raiders Fan Radio and you look for Flashback on there. And like I said, the first couple episodes, please, folks, they were awful. Give me a break on those. But I'm having the time of my life with it. It's just incredible to bring all this history back to life.
Hey,
and it's very well received.
Everybody starts off a little slow in their. Look at Peyton Manning's rookie year in the NFL. Wasn't so hot, but look what happened with him. So
that's true. That's true.
So you get better. You get better with more experience. So that's good.
When I find out, I have fans in in other countries and all too. That just blows me away. It just blows me away, and I'm so surprised at the success that I was able to have with it.
Well, that's great. I mean, Raider Nation is definitely a big supportive fan base. So that's great that they have some shows like yours to cheer on Raiders and remember Raiders history and some of these great gridiron legends that played in the black and silver.
I'll tell you, Raider Nation is it reaches out. I'm setting up a few more projects that I want to do on the Raiders, and people are willing to help, and they just come through. Whether it's the person in charge of the Raiderettes or anybody else that's involved with the Raiders, they're right there for you, and it truly is a family. And I know you have a lot of fan bases that listen to the show, and hopefully there's a few from Raider Nation. But I couldn't be prouder to be a part of it.
Well, that is great. And, we wish you all the luck on that. And we hope that, we thank you for coming on today and sharing with this Rose Bowl memory with us. And, we know we got you signed up for a few more of these too. So we'll have you on in the next week or two talking about another great Rose Bowl memory. And we're excited to hear about that too. So thanks a lot for joining us today, Rich.
No problem, Darren. I can't wait to dry off and clean up and then jump back in the pig pen with you in a few weeks.
We're taking a peek over at the chains and the down marker. It's 4th and long. We're going to have to punt the ball and get on out of here, but we'll have another series tomorrow for your football history headlines, so be sure to tune in. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast. Pigskindispatch.com is a proud affiliate of the Sports History Network, the headquarters of sports yesteryear.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.